This is another 4-day high protein vegan meal plan. This one is 92 grams of protein a day if you eat the same number of calories that I eat. I put a 4-day grocery list down below in the description. It's broken out by meal. So while these groceries will last me for 4 days, depending on your calorie needs and your activity level, you may eat smaller portions, you might eat larger portions. So you just need to adjust the portion sizes according to your activity level, hunger level. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel, give this video a thumbs up, and let's jump in to the recipes. Starting with the prep. So the first item, I'm not gonna even show you how to prep it because I've already done this in another video. So I have a healthy vegan muffin recipe right here, which I will link down below in the description along with the grocery list, so you can get that recipe there. I'm just prepping one batch, and a batch is 8 muffins, and I'm gonna eat about 2 muffins a day. All right, now I will take you through the rest of the prep. For the chickpea Caesar salad, I have drained, rinsed, and now I'm drying off these chickpeas, AKA garbanzo beans, and we're gonna be roasting these in the oven, so they just need to be dried off well enough. So once they are dry, I'm gonna add them to a bowl. I used about 3 cans of these chickpeas, and half a cup I used for the banana nut muffins that I made, which I'm not showing in this video. So just make sure to check out the link down below in the description to get that recipe. Now in this bowl, I'm going to add 3 tablespoons of oil. Use whatever you want. I'm just a fan of sunflower oil. I also really like walnut oil. I know there's a group out there that's very anti-oil, but I am not one of those people. I've added the chickpeas to a pan with some parchment paper, and this is going in the oven at 350 degrees. For my lentil stew and mashed potatoes, in a pan I have a pot with a tablespoon of oil. Back here I've already got started some yellow potatoes in my steamer, so those are already cooking. And now I'm adding half of an onion to the pan. So I'm turning up the heat to medium and then going to let this saute down. This is gonna cook for about 2 minutes before we add the mushrooms. Next, adding in 8 ounces of baby Bella mushrooms, and then also adding in a tablespoon of cocoa aminos. All right, so the beauty of multitasking, these have been in the oven for about 20 minutes. So I'm actually just gonna toss them and then put them back in the oven. Next, I'm adding a mix of red and green lentils. I used 1.5 cups of green and half a cup of red. Oh, and I sauteed the mushroom and the onions probably for about 8 minutes, I think. Then I'm going to add in a tablespoon of this better than, I don't know how to say this, bouillon? I have no idea actually how to say that. So you can use vegetable broth instead if you want to. I just like this stuff. It comes with a lot. It's less waste because it's in glass and it lasts a really long time. So I'm starting with 4 cups of water, but I'll probably end up adding an extra 2 cups of water as this cooks down. And I'm gonna turn the heat up so it starts to boil. So I'm gonna put it on high. It's been on medium this whole time. And I'm gonna check the potatoes. I can stick a fork in it and it's all good. It's definitely cooked. So I'm gonna drain these, adding them back to the pot. And then I'm using some Earth Balance butter, and I'm gonna add 3 tablespoons of butter. Now you don't need to use butter, you can use coconut cream, you can use oil, you can just use some unsweetened milk if you wanna avoid oil. Okay, and now that this is boiling, we're gonna turn it down to a simmer, and I'm gonna set a timer for 10 minutes. Now I've got my potatoes in my serving container, what I'm gonna store all of this in, so I'm just going to mash up the potatoes with the butter. So obviously you can use like a hand mixer or whatever you have. You can use a fork if you don't really have anything. If you don't have anything like this, you can use whatever you've got to mash it. Okay, that looks good. And after 10 minutes, I'm going to add in some cubed, little tiny cubed sweet potato. And this is half of a large sweet potato. And then adding another 2 cups of water. And then I'm just gonna crank up the heat a little bit again because we added more of that water. So I heated it up to about medium, and then I'm gonna cook this for an additional 15 minutes or so until we get some more water evaporated. So I'm gonna add in another tablespoon of the cocoa aminos, just because I feel like it needs it a little bit. You can always adjust the seasonings. You can add some fresh herbs. And now I'm just going to gently pour this on top. And I'm gonna crack some fresh pepper on top. Allow this to cool for at least, half an hour before covering it with a lid and then adding it into the fridge. Okay, these ended up taking forever, and what I learned is don't use parchment paper. I've tried to make these a couple times and they've always come out still soft in the center. And really what worked was getting rid of the parchment paper and then broiling them at the end. They should crunch like this. Oh yeah. So I'm gonna add some garlic powder, this stuff right here, and just use what you like. I think everyone's preference is gonna be different, and you can always taste this right away. So there's so many different recipes on how to make crispy chickpeas, but what I learned is 350 degrees, probably it would cook for about 45 minutes, and don't use parchment paper. And then I broiled them for 10 minutes after that, so because they still weren't crunchy enough. And then I'm also going to add about half a tablespoon of nutritional yeast, just eyeballing it. So these are gonna replace our crouton. So it's a nice little healthy, crispy protein instead of using bread. Ooh, good crunch. So for the chickpeas, I didn't show this when I did the actual prep, but I put them in just a mason jar and I have a silicone lid on it. I actually leave this lid, or this, it's like a cork, like a wine cork. I don't know. So I actually leave this little seal thing off because there needs to be some type of airflow in these chickpeas in order for them to actually stay crunchy, which is interesting. I don't know the science behind it, but it's true because in a batch I tested, I left this on and all my chickpeas went stale. So it's odd, but it just needs airflow. So I leave this off, and these don't need to be refrigerated. You can just leave them on your counter, in your pantry, whatever. And also I made sure to test these again just to get the correct cook time for you. So I didn't use parchment paper at all. So like I said, don't use parchment paper, but the bake time is pretty close to what I had tested it out to. So it's 40 minutes at 350 degrees Fahrenheit. Just give it a toss halfway between at like the 20-minute mark. And then after the 40 minutes, just broil it for about 10 minutes. So that 10-minute at the end is really what just like finishes it off, and it's nice and crunchy. And then of course, when that's done, you just toss it in your seasonings. And I didn't add salt to these, although salt is gonna really intensify the flavor and make them so good. But I'm using a lot of salt in this meal plan, and I just really am trying to cut back on that salt. Salt makes everything taste good. That's why people have problems with it. We eat way too much of it. Okay, that's that. Now we're gonna make our dressing, which you can also definitely get done within, I had to crush that really quick. Oh, you didn't even see me crush that. All right, so I just had to crush this to get the, I can't think, my brain is not working. Okay, to get the skin off of it, whatever it's called. So I added in a clove of garlic. I'm gonna add in a 1/4 cup of water. This is the dressing for our Caesar salad. So this is the Caesar dressing. A 1/4 cup of tahini, which is just sesame seeds ground up into a butter. 2 tablespoons of fresh lemon juice. 2 tablespoons of hemp seeds. 2 tablespoons of nutritional yeast. A teaspoon of capers, which if you're unfamiliar with capers, they usually come in a jar like this. A teaspoon of Dijon mustard. And then last, we're just gonna add some pepper. So nice and super creamy. You can of course add some more water in here if you want it to be a little bit more spreadable or easy to toss on the salad. So I'm gonna just put a lid on this and pop it in the fridge. And of course, adjust the flavors according to just what you want. So you can add more of something else that you want. You could also add maple syrup to sweeten it a little bit if it's too sharp of a flavor for you. And now I'm gonna take you through what I pack for snack, for lunch, and the breakfast that I'm gonna be making. I've got my lunch and snacks all packed. So I've got 2 of my banana nut muffins. I've got some fruit, pineapple, apples, and clementines, and then also my Caesar salad. So I just put in a mix of your basic green lettuce and some iceberg lettuce, and then I put in the dressing just on the side because I don't want it all intermixed yet. And then like a tablespoon of sunflower seeds on top. So I just put a 1/4 serving of the dressing that I made. And then I'm putting my roasted chickpeas on the side because if I put it with more moist ingredients, these will end up getting stale. So you want them to stay nice and crunchy. So I'm gonna keep them on the side and then just cover them all up, pack them up, and take them with me. Okay, and for the smoothie, I'm making a beet berry smoothie, and I just want to forewarn you that if you make this smoothie, especially if you make it day in, day out, you'll notice it on the first day, but everything will be purple or reddish. And when I mean everything, I mean when you head to the bathroom, what comes out of you is gonna be purple or red colored. Don't be alarmed, it's the beets. The beets turn everything in your insides purple. You'll be purple for days. But beets are very good for you. So just in case you're not used to eating beets, I don't eat beets that often, so I forget that it does that. And I go, oh my gosh, what's wrong with me? Anyway, this is TMI, let's move on. So in my smoothie, I have a chopped beet. The beet was about the size of my palm, so I just washed and sort of peeled it, just cut off the gross bits. A whole banana, and then I'm going to add some frozen raspberries and some oat milk. I'd say I used about a cup of raspberries and 1 cup to 1.5 cups of oat milk. Then I'm gonna add some unflavored pea protein. So I'm gonna do a scoop of the pea protein. And since my pea protein is unflavored, I'm gonna be using this vanilla cream stevia drops. To give it a vanilla flavor, you can use vanilla extract, or you can just use vanilla protein powder. And as an option, I'm gonna add a little bit of ice after I've blended it, and then I'm gonna add a little bit of water. You can add more milk. Just want those little ice bits in here and make it extra cold. Blend it again. For dinner, I just portioned out a serving that works for me, which is 1/4 of what I made. And I put it in a baking dish, baked it at 350 degrees for 30 minutes. Just cook it as long as you want until it's nice and toasty. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video.